Okay, so today I'm going to be reacting to Season 1, Episode 7 of The Sopranos, but let's do a little recap. So, Episode 6, despite it giving me so much juicy junior content, who of course I like as a character and as a well-written character, and all of that, people are going to probably say, oh, you're like rooting for him, but I'm more just acknowledging, like in the character point system, he's at like a +3, and Tony is like a -3, so we'll recap what happened in that one. It's easier if I keep up with it this way. Chris is like a 0, so I just say them as they happen. It's going to be hard to remember all those moments, but I should be able to. But basically, that was probably the weakest episode in the whole show, because despite it having all those kind of junior scenes, it didn't really have like a strong subplot to it. So let me try to go into recap like what all the plots or subplots of each of the episodes have been up to this point. So one of them has been, like in the first episode, it was like, oh, he's having his panic attacks and with the ducks and all that, and he's going to therapy, so that therapy thing could pass off as the subplot for the first episode. And then also he's dealing with business like normal, so that's always going to happen. And also, Junior's trying to kill somebody at the restaurant, and so he's trying to give the guy tickets to try to get him out of there, right? So those are sort of the subplots there. So that's nothing exemplary, but it's good enough, and it's the one instance where the therapy can at least be excused, right? Where it's okay if you introduce it there as just a little storytelling trope. But the problem is when you overuse it and abuse it this much as they've done throughout the story, it's become a bit tired, right? I sort of started to criticize that every time I see it, even though I like the therapist as a character too, and she's smart. It just feels kind of out of place. She shouldn't have this big a role in the story. Either she's going to turn out to be a mole or a rat or something, like this was all part of the plan to try to get info on Tony, or she'll just end up doing that anyway. She'll end up ratting him out. So either just stop going to therapy or kill her, or go find somebody else as a therapist. Like, why put yourself in this situation just because Tony's mentally weak or whatever? So episode 2 subplot was finding the teacher's car, which again, even if I criticize that, at least something else is going on. And then episode 3, and I said Tony would probably lose respect with his people for that. Like, you're making us do this when business already isn't that good and we're having all these other issues. Not only do you do it, but you do it on such short notice. Like, you're kind of flexing your power and using it for personal reasons that have nothing to do with business. And then the third one, like, you think Junior's splitting his resources like that, where he's fucking, somebody asks him a favor, but even if somebody asks him a favor, like Godfather style, like Bonacera asked him to punish the people who... You had a scene like that in the barbershop where he's like complaining, oh, my kid was killed by these people, so he's going to take revenge on that, kind of a thing. So that's kind of a similar use of it, but that's still more meaningful, and somebody's asking you personally rather than some random teacher of your kids. That seems more just like personal interest that you're taking. So you have that element, but there was at least that subplot in episode 2, so that one's kind of weak, but at least there's something there. Then episode 3 subplot was basically like going to, what was it? Trying to get that guy to get a divorce, right? And give up his share of whatever, right? Like the share of the money and stuff like that. He wants like 50% or this or that. So he tries to torture him, and even there, Tony doesn't look good. So Tony in episode 2 doesn't look good because he's splitting his resources too much. Like, oh, why are we spreading ourselves thin, worrying about a random teacher's car when we've got bigger issues to worry about? So people would kind of question that. Just like how they're questioning, why are we fixing this therapist's car? This is how you lose respect, right? You're flexing your muscle when you don't even deserve it. Like, all these kind of things that have nothing to do with anything. And so, why are you fixing the therapist's car? And then episode 3 is the fact that you're trying to torture this guy. So he kind of loses some respect there too. Like, he can't even torture this guy adequately enough. The big bad mob boss can't even get this guy to agree to a divorce, right? Even Tony was shocked, like, oh, he's so strong-willed that we can't make him agree. My technique there too would always be to like pretend to agree and then don't, and then they'll have to come back and find you, and you'll be gone by then or whatever, right? So it's like they're kind of outsourcing because they don't have their own mafia, those guys. So then they say, oh, we'll come to Tony as a backup option, and they're not happy about it, and so he ends up getting a share in a hotel, but basically, yeah, you can't really disagree with the person. You're going to that person for muscle because you don't have muscle yourself. So then if he comes after you and asks for something unreasonable, what are you going to do then? You didn't have muscle in the first place to deal with this guy who you're just trying to get a divorce. So how are you going to have enough to fight off Tony Soprano in that situation, right? The same muscle that you hired. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. So like, you hire a hitman to do a hit for you because you don't have that kind of ability or resources yourself. But then if you don't pay them, right, you think you can shrug them off and they won't just do a hit on you, and you couldn't, you're not going to be able to protect yourself because you had to hire them in the first place, but to do your dirty work for you. So now, again, episode 3 subplot was that he can't even torture the guy properly, not very intimidating, there's no fear factor of him. That's how the series starts, actually, like with people not respecting Tony. Somebody said some shit about him, and then he hits him with his car, but in very conspicuous, in a public eye, right? Everybody's watching, so that doesn't seem good. And then episode 4, the subplot was the fact that I actually can't remember what the subplot in that one was. It definitely had one. Episode 4, is where Tony ultimately gives the reins to Junior, but I guess partly they're focusing on the cancer and stuff like that a lot, and then the guy ends up dying, even though that's more like a background thing. There definitely was something, I just can't remember what it was. But basically Junior and him are having a fight, and then Chris yells at Tony and doesn't realize that Jackie's dead, and then that was like the worst possible timing there. And then somebody should have really stopped Chris, though. He's going off way too much because he doesn't know what happened, but they think he knows or whatever. We don't get to see that scene either, the apology for that or anything, right? He just has to swallow his pride and accept the fact that Junior's the boss, right? When he obviously was mad and was saying, let's go at him, let's go to war, blah, blah, blah. So that was partly the cancer thing. There's got to be something else that happened in that episode, though, that was like a subplot. I can't remember. I mean, therapy is always kind of in the background. Some random mob stuff is in the background. Yeah, I don't actually remember anything specifically, though. So that one's kind of just a pass, but I remember episode 3, despite that one's kind of middle of the road as a subplot, or maybe bottom, like episode 2. So episode 1 had a better one, right, where it's at least a more interesting subplot. And then those other 2 are kind of bottom tier, but at least they have one. Episode 4 I can't remember, but I don't remember being bothered by it too much. And so the 2 weakest episodes of the series so far were 3 and 6, as we're about to talk about now. Episode 5 had a very strong one, whether you want to consider the college, looking for colleges for your daughter, or whether you want to consider the mob guy in the backdrop but that's kind of like the main thing. This highly capable mob guy who took care of 12 of their people, and then Tony's fighting with him. Aside from the game theory ending being kind of bad, right, like with respect to Chris not coming to save the day, and that I would have preferred over it. That would have really been the point that would have put it over the top. But despite that, that was one of still the stronger subplots. Either which way you want to take it, like the college thing in the background is fine. The daughter kind of prying for information about what he does, even though she already kind of knows, and everybody seems to know. Even the little boy knows now. But basically, you're in a position where, that was a strong plot either way. So that was a good episode. It could have been the best one, and could have been a runaway, right? Great moment developing for Chris. Chris comes, saves the day. I've already explained that game theory thing enough. And then episode 6 is going to be the one that... So Tony kind of just gives Junior the reins at the end of episode 4. Then he just heads off and is focusing on college. So he lets... Then when he comes back, he doesn't realize that, Junior maybe overstepped or did this or that. So that's what episode 6 is about now. Junior is maybe overdoing it a bit, so I gave him a -1 there, but then I had to give him a +1 back because he was reasonable, and he kind of still got something out of it, and he's doing it kind of with some strategic thing in mind to get at Tony, like the whole Hesh is like using the mother to find out that Hesh is kind of who Tony respects the most, and then Tony, there's some subtext with the mother too, like maybe she knows more than she's letting on, but I'm not really getting that vibe. But then Uncle Junior always interprets it that way to his own benefit, or somehow takes it almost as advice from her, right? That, you must want me to tax Hesh, even though she probably has no fucking idea. Like, he just jumps to that, so it's kind of hilarious extrapolations that he does, and sort of innuendo the way he talks. he can say the simplest thing or hear the simplest thing and interpret it and take it to mean something completely different and take it to another level. And so the other point with that is, yeah, Junior got a minus for overstepping his bounds, but then he gets a plus back for being reasonable. And even at the end, like, Tony gives him some advice, like, you should share, let everybody eat, gives everybody like 5%, this and that. Then, you know, he actually listens, though. He doesn't take offense to it. He actually is reasonable and listens. Well, that makes Junior actually look very good, right? Maybe he's not going to be so bad after all. So everybody, but he's doing it just to save face at Tony's advice. So, but no, there basically was no subplot. It was just all about Junior, which is, again, fine, but you can't rely on that so much. There was nothing else going on. It starts off, he's trying to tax the guy, then he gets upset about taxing the guy, then they have a conversation about it, then they have some other issue like that, right, like, you should share with everybody, and then he does. Like, nothing else is really going on. Then there's a lot of therapy filler shit, like, you know, now he clowns up and says he's in love with his therapist. So this represents the perfect character point analogy for Tony, how he's in the hole. And I'll make actually a new format. If he goes below minus 10, only Tony, though, because he's the main character. If Tony goes below minus 10, I'll actually stop watching the show. Right, so if he legitimately finds a way to do that, which you would think would be absurd, because minus 10 is extreme, right? But he's been hovering at minus 4 now, and he had a chance to reclaim some ground because he was at minus 4, right? And then in episode 4, he went back to minus 3 because he gave the reins to Junior and was very humble and made the right decision there. So he was hovering on a minus 2 because, like, oh, that was a good momentum to build. That wasn't just a plus 1; it was a really strong plus 1. Right, so he's almost built some momentum, but now he clowns it up again. See, episode 5 evens itself out. He gets the kill on the guy, but he also could have gotten killed by him, the guy he just spares his life outside the hotel, so Tony gets 1 up, so that's a minus 1, but then it's a plus 1 again because he finally kills him at the end, so fine. They even each other out. So this episode was the same thing. This would have been a minus 3 going to a minus 2, but now it goes back... It goes back to a minus 4 because he clowns up. He's saying, I love you to the therapist, and he's showing such mental weakness in that regard. So that's a clown move. So that made him back to a minus 4. But then he's brought back to a minus 3 by giving a Junior good advice, and Junior actually follows the advice that you should share with everybody, let everybody eat, even though he does it in kind of a comical way. One of the funnier scenes of the show, the beginning of the college episode 4 was funny, or episode 5 was funny, and then this scene was funny. We're talking about Augustus and Caesar and all this shit, and he keeps saying the same thing over and over, and Junior's getting pissed, like, what are you talking about? Just say it directly. Right, and then he even listens, too. Like, all you had to do was ask, and I'll do it. Like, it makes sense. So he's doing it for maybe strictly pragmatic reasons, but that whole conversation was very good. So Tony sort of is his own worst enemy, where he had some momentum going, but now he goes back to a minus 3 instead of minus 2 with doing something so good because he fucks up and he's clowning up with the therapist and saying, I love you and stuff like that, and overdoing it. So the point is that, and every time he had some fight with her, gets mad at the therapist, he always comes crawling back to her anyway. Like, it's not, you know, he just can't find another one. If you're worried about, I might have leaked information to her and she has her own shrink, the first thing you would do is let me just get a new one, and then I'll be more careful not to reveal so much, or, you know, which I should have been in the first place if I'm not a clown. So yeah, he's at a comfortable minus 3 now, which is still pretty bad, and, you know, if he goes past minus 10, that would be the condition that I stop watching the show. I doubt it's going to happen, and I'm being fair about it, but he keeps clowning up. That was a major clown move, saying I love you to the therapist, not only continuing to go to therapy, not only having all these issues. These have nothing to do with business, right? This is what I'm saying. To quote Hyman Roth many times, as I probably will do, right, this is the business we've chosen, and he can't handle it or do anything of the sort there. And so Junior would have also been in a similar state. He's at a plus 3, but I almost want to recap with him. Just before we start here, I want to recap, like, what all did he do or not do. So he gets a plus 1 for his general demeanor, right, his intelligence throughout the whole show. He gets a plus 1 for kind of fooling me with his old man guys. He gets a plus 1, but then also a minus 1 for the mother, how he is exploiting the mother. That's kind of a low thing to do, but then also the way he uses it is kind of strategic, and the innuendo and taking her advice. On one hand, that he's respecting her advice, that he even cares what she thinks, right, out of respect for her husband, but also he also is using it and twisting it to his own benefit. So it's both good and bad, kind of a good way to get an inside take on Tony and kind of mull for his weaknesses, but then also, kind of it's a low thing to kind of do that. So it's kind of a mix. So that evens itself out. And then this episode also evens itself out because he's like overstepping his bounds and kind of flexing his muscle as the boss now too much, even calling himself the boss and, kind of being a little showy and making everybody's eyebrows raised, not keeping a low profile, which even seems like his personality, that he isn't, well, whatever, like, Tony's actually pretty good about keeping a low profile too. Like, he doesn't want to be the boss, so he's overstepped his bounds as a boss, so that's a -1, but then it's also a +1 because he's being reasonable and he does listen to Tony, so he kind of makes up for it a bit. So now you're at, again, still a +2. The other one that makes him a +3 is the fact that he's able to basically, with Chris, he's able to basically, he's reasonable in that situation too. He does the right thing, he gets the reparations, but he also takes advantage, and he's able to basically, so he sits at a +3, he's able to basically kill Brendan, but he doesn't kill Chris, he sends a warning, he possibly gets some other information that he can use against Chris, again, the fact that he sold her drugs, and then the fact that, as if the Russians coming to kill you would care about your apology, but he thought he was actually going to die, and then, he also gets the reparations from the truck itself, so he kind of plays Tony like, give me the reparations, but I'm still going to kill Brendan then too. And he was in the right for doing that because they keep fucking with his trucks. He got to send a strong message. And then inadvertently, that also leads to Tony making him the boss, because since he's so upset at him, he almost has to make it up to him. Not by doing something so extreme, but that was kind of Tony's way of placating him that way. So in the long term, that benefited him. So that's a net +1. And then the next one, see, in episode 6, he has 2 moments like that, where he gets a -1, but then he makes up for it and gets a +1 to even it out, which is exactly the fact that he gets a -1 for taxing Hesh and sort of overstepping his bounds and asking for too much. But then he gets a +1 because he's kind of playing everybody and they settle for the middle ground. So he asks too high and he's flexing his muscle, but then he's also reasonable and says, okay, we'll lower it to this amount that I maybe originally wanted in the first place, but I just went high so that you would haggle with me and then look like the good guy, right? You look like the bad guy for going high, but then you look like the good guy for settling low, right? It makes it seem like you're doing them a favor. So whatever, you still got what you wanted. So you were kind of showing off to the mother too much and calling yourself the boss. So you were kind of getting too full of yourself. But then you even it out by being reasonable there. And then the second time that same event happens is when he oversteps his bounds again. Right, later on in the episode. Wait, what exactly did he do though? Just like his general demeanor, he's holding out too much, but then he listens to Tony and he's reasonable and he says, okay, fine, I'll be fair and give it to everybody else, right? So he had 2 moments like that, showing off that he is the boss and overstepping his power too much, but then being reasonable enough to listen and, lower the taxation and even benefit from that, from, haggling, starting high and then ending up low, and then also the fact that, again, he's holding out on everyone, but then he's willing to listen. So again, he sits at a +3, Tony sits at a -3. Okay, so I'll start in a few seconds, and of course you will hear this is like only my second time eating during watching one, but just the beginning, and it can't be helped because you will hear the sound in the background. There's no way for me to really cancel that out. I did that in like episode 3 at the beginning, so we'll start in a second here. This is one of those that annoyingly played an ad at the beginning though, which I don't like. So we'll start in 3, 2, 1. That should be the HBO Max logo, which it is. Or I always say it's the Max logo, but it's just original programming. So we get the intro scene. This I already don't like the fact that they should show a scene before it starts, right? Before, and I always watch this through. This is a good time to do like a recap, but my recap takes like 15 minutes, so then it ends up being, a lot more than that. Whenever he's driving through the toll, it reminded me of like Sonny getting killed in The Godfather. Like he's going through a toll area, and then he gets shot down towards the end of the movie. So Chris has a little bit of Santino in him. Like, he's kind of hot-headed at times, but he's not terrible with it. It's just, Tony is very calm. He has issues, but when it comes to business, he can be pretty humble and calm and willing to have a conversation, which I do respect that a lot. As much as I clown him and he's a very flawed character, and I was doing like those 1v1 character matchups and stuff, that he was losing a lot of them too. Like, he would lose to everybody besides Henry Hill, who I was never that impressed by from strictly a capability standpoint. He'd get clowned by Michael, he'd get clowned by Tony Montana, because see, what Tony has is, at least, yeah, he's crazy, but at least he's consistent with how crazy he is. Like, he'll go to an extreme and he'll get you killed. Now, he might get caught and killed afterwards, right, but he'll do what he has to do. Tony doesn't have that kind of initiative. He doesn't want to be the boss. He's kind of too humble at times. These are like little kids playing a prank. Now, this must be the same church that Tony was bragging that his forefathers built it or something. He's always caught in the old days, like, it used to be so much better, but he's part of the reason why it's not, because he has his issues too. That's what he doesn't realize. All this stuff to do with the kids doesn't interest me quite as much. They kind of forgot about the fight with Chris from episode 4, where he's arguing with him when Uncle Jackie died, but also they forgot about the fact that he sold drugs, so that's going to be an ongoing plot line. Those are kind of the two interesting ongoing plot lines, with the kid selling the drugs to the kid that Chris did, and obviously that the wife knows about the cheating that she's never brought up directly, or not cheating with that one person right at the party who admitted it, who they're friends with, but she obviously knows or suspects he cheats with other people, or she thinks is a therapist. Alcohol. He's pretty observant. That gym teacher almost gets a +1. How would you immediately notice that and not just feel bad for the kid and think, just that he's genuinely sick? That happened to me once. I threw up on a desk in a class. I don't even remember why. Good cover for, what he's doing. So you can't say anything to Chris because he's just so good at what he does, I guess. We haven't seen it too much, but he's always nice to Chris despite whatever. All this family drama shit is so boring. Yeah, how religious is Tony? It doesn't feel like he really cares about all that. Wonder where he gets the bad behavior from. he thinks he can get away with it because, oh, don't throw out those labels here. Modern label fucking excuse making. It couldn't be that as if other people don't normally have those things anyway, but just common human idiosyncrasy. You give it a name, you give it a label. It's an excuse, actually, for weak-minded people. You just joked about it, though. But maybe he can get a good bureaucratic answer by him, but it's like, so you trade off the sound of the car for the sound of the eating, so there's always some distraction here. But I wouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be consequenced. Good word. But the point is that maybe he feels he can get away with this bad behavior because why is Junior here having dinner with them? It's just they're all in the nursing home together with or she's just openly talking about it, but or he's like intrigued by how cool that sounds. But yeah, you still keep doing it. Now, he finds all this bad behavior cool, though. And, like, my thought was, he feels he can get away with it now because he got away with beating the one kid. So, like, he has this privilege that he can get away with doing bad things, or he's encouraged to do them because the parents do them, or, he can get away with it. The teacher can't do anything to him because he has all this power. He got away with it the one time. But yeah, you're talking shit to Junior, who was getting upset there. Who do you think you're yelling at, dude? Remember that. Never mind the fact that he's boss. Who do you think you're yelling at, period? Who do you think Junior is, dude? What the fuck did you just treat him like that? He's not encouraging. He's just telling stories. You don't have to be embarrassed about what you do. This is the business you've chosen. Obviously, he knows what he's stupid. There's some weird subliminal flash. Yeah, it keeps saying that. He's saying all the kids at school know and stuff. It's not like a big surprise. Yeah, you almost got killed and you deserve to. What are these subliminal flashes? This is kind of dumb. I don't know why they're doing it like that. Like Exorcist style where you see Pazuzu's face or something. He's like such a laid-back guy. Like, he doesn't really care, but yeah, you got to check that how you talk to Junior, though. He was getting all upset. Look how he talks to me. Especially in front of the mom. You got to watch yourself there. That's what you should really be worried about. Don't worry about the kids. You worry about Junior, dude. You don't treat him like that. It is bullshit. Yeah, and they'll get co-opted by everybody. Just wait. It's true. In the absence of good parenting, though, maybe you need some other excuse to make it up, but why can't it just be, he's a shitty parent? What about the I love you part? You're not freaked out by that? The fact that he has a guy stalking you? You just let that part go, and you're still, like, she should have dropped him as a therapist. He should have dropped her as a client. Oh, God. That's what intimate means. And a wife, you forget about her. Trying to make her jealous of your Russian mistress. Yeah, and he's only doing it to brag. Weird flex. He respects her intelligence, though. I'd say go easy a little bit. Raise. Yeah, how much is he paying her? Like, just do everything for me because I'm too much of a clown to handle myself. Although he gave pretty good advice on elders, whether it be Junior or like the mom or the kids, like let them think they're in control. And then he applies that to Junior to promote him, but give him the boss job. Because he's suspended, they're making him do all the chores, basically. Ironic, as if your yelling wouldn't wake him up, but the music will. Kind of a good scene to show all the stress in the background of his life. So he definitely doesn't want to be the boss, but at some point he'll be made into it. But yeah, you owe Junior an apology. Sorry I talked to you like that in front of the kid. Junior's just making conversation, you know. He doesn't know all your Junior apologists over here, but still, like, you know, you shouldn't encourage it or whatever, but that's just like a neutral scene for both of them. Or this is a flashback, isn't it? Distinctive glasses, you can tell right away. So this is what I wanted to see too. See the guy, Uncle Jackie in his prime, right? the guy who died obviously of cancer, we get to see him when he was young, because we didn't get to see him anything other than basically being sick and a shell of himself. So he's reflecting on what he went through as a kid. Kind of Henry Hill vibes from the beginning of Goodfellas stuff. Although you don't see too much of that. This is actually pretty good. This is something I was asking for, actually. This is my whole opposite interpretation concept, my little psychology tidbit. The fact that by seeing something violent and repulsive happen, would you be encouraged to do it, or would you be more repulsed by it and hate it all the more, like Clockwork Orange? You show him violence to discourage violence, but it might encourage it too if he likes it, right? It reveals more about the person than what you see. It's like she already knows, but she just acts. But you were just defending the act of doing that, like, oh, it should be okay to beat people up. A lot of backstory, just give it all. Almost like therapy is a good plot device. There's the other cover too, involving beating the shit out of a guy. Look how openly he admits it. But you saw him beat the shit out of a guy, that's illegal. So that's what... So that's how you justify yourself? That's why I was even wondering about the mother. How much did the mother know about her husband, right? Who she keeps calling a saint. She must have known. And she's maybe sharper than she lets on. Yeah, Chris is getting a little too cocky. Or he's trying to be a good parent almost to Chris the same way that he's not to his own kids. They're both in therapy. This is how you know it's a fucked up family. It's actually a funny scenario. They're in the same episode. Tony's going to therapy about his kid going to therapy. What the fuck? Buying it, not stealing it. There maybe were no TVs. South Park. Haven't seen that one. I gotta react to South Park. But he'd say that's a bad influence, make him stop watching South Park. Oh no. Don't blame the cartoon, dude. She's got nothing better to do anyway. She's a housewife. You're both fucked up. For marrying you and having kids with you. For having kids with you, yeah. The one who did Speed, right? I mean, I don't feel any sympathy for the wife. She's a clown, too. Clowns end up together. Like, what has she done that's of interest or intrigue or anything good? She had the one good quip, like, where she talks about, oh, how that priest was here all night, and then she's using that to passive-aggressively get at him for your female therapist called. That was kind of a clever way she segued into that, but... That's like rewarding somebody. You're a bad boy and you don't have to go to school. That's cool. Good. Let's get off to some mischief. Now he'll discover he's a Scrabble prodigy and it'll turn into a different kind of show. She really doesn't like that idea. I don't know. Or he's never said it. Or how does the kid know that if he tries to keep it private from everybody? Now he'll say it to Junior. She'll say it to Junior. Oh, he overheard now. In part, and other things, but he got offended when she said something bad about the mother. Everybody's blaming themselves for everyone else's problems. Not entirely untrue, but he mostly has talked about other shit, right? And he even got offended when she was blaming you or saying you hate your mother or something. Psychiatrist, not psychologist. But now Junior's gonna find out. And then he was so embarrassed, he was hiding from somebody else who was in the office, the dental office next door. Confidentiality. What did he say? I missed it, but... Junior was encouraging, but I maybe missed what exactly he said. That he knows, obviously. Even these random kids know, but you think your own kids wouldn't know? Oh, he's seen it. That's very similar to the Tessio scene. They copied it. So you're not denying it. Oh yeah, like you're so inconspicuous, Tony. You're a stealth master. You snuck up on that guy and choked him. Nobody's got a beat on you. Or like, you ran over somebody with your car in public and there's a crowd watching, but yet you're not on any watch list on a website. They got you on the fucking board as a capo. No shit, you're not on the fucking website, dude. Shit. Stop using real names and real things. Stop using real names. Just make shit up, dude. Well, back to the ducks again. Duck count million. Foreshadowing. That they find out that somebody gets killed, maybe, that you are impotent. Now we get another flashback. This episode has had a lot of these kind of cut sequences, like at the beginning, where he's sort of flashing back to the daughter asking about him. You get to see the younger Uncle Junior, Hyman Roth in his heyday with Mo Green. Yeah, you were just talking shit to him at the table. You gotta watch it. He's totally Hyman Roth. Hyman Roth was watching baseball, wasn't he, on the TV in his house? Nice little humble Florida home. Maybe she just got married. That's why she's called something different. She married a doctor, some Indian doctor is what it sounds like. He's trying to throw the ball at them and hit them as they go away. Even this episode doesn't have much of a plot, but at least the flashbacks are pretty good. It's hard to say what's filler and what's not in the story. Oh yeah, take a bath, that'll save you. She's that laid back, like just take a bath. You wouldn't say, oh, skip it today because maybe it's a little dangerous. Is he going to show like how he died or something? I kind of doubt it. I guess we don't know what happened. I'm assuming he's dead, but his dad, but I don't know what, if they've implied what happened to him exactly. Hiding in the trunk like a clown. He's jealous of Janice, obviously, but now he's going to get in trouble for obviously sneaking in the trunk. Yeah, she is kind of spoiled. So the daughters in this lineage are always nice because, like, even they're saying, oh, she's a straight-A student, even though she did speed. Their own daughter, Tony, Meadow, and whatever. Yeah, you can't blame all these extenuating external factors. Ultimately, you have to take the credit, blame yourself. Like, you know, it plays a role, like nature versus nurture kind of argument, but it plays a role, but you can't blame that. You can still overcome it or whatever. Ride Land is taking her to the amusement park. This does feel like a dick move against Tony, like, just, you know, you're doing something nice and you're not going to let him come just for that. Or he's doing something shady here too. So he brings her there and lets her play while he does business. You remember every little odd detail about this, but it could pertain to the son just because it's something that you remember from your childhood in general. What messed you up the same way that he's messed up. What is this, the fucking clean police, like, you who didn't wear a ribbon? Who is the one who didn't wear a ribbon or whatever from Seinfeld? It's like, what, just because he littered, he fucking is getting chased around? What the fuck? The the real crime here is the littering, though. You got to get this kid. What does this have to do with the riots? So, like, they brought that up for a reason, I guess, or just to give you a sense of the time frame, time period. You just did, though. Haha, I'm not saying shit. Clarabelle, what a name. He must have got off. It was all part of his plan. He probably has protection. He's just post bail. It's just that easy. You just get out. Like, what exactly was he caught for? I don't even know. Seems like a lot of work to go through just to bring your daughter to, what, if you don't have a daughter, you can't take part then? I thought he just happened to be doing his dirty work there anyway, so you may as well let her play while he's doing it. Let this be a lesson that cops are bad and stupid, and yeah, a great lesson to teach kids. Don't trust the cops. She just seems genuinely interested and fascinated more than anything else. And you believe them like a dumb clown that you are? She doesn't know what to say even. Just let him do all the talking and just respond. Like, that's too easy. Macho, toxic masculinity moment. Yeah, I want you to make the times for salamis and sit on your ass. Like, very specific reference. When did you say that? What are you, a philosopher now instead of... I mean, it has partly to do with it, but Yeah, you could be a good mobster or a clown like you, for example. What, is he mocking the very fabric of America now? I like how sarcastic he's being about everything, though. Tony, as he's telling these stories. He's sucking up to Rocco. Nevada. What's so wrong with Nevada? At least it's not Ohio. Now he'll say he's in therapy, and he can use that against him. Are you in therapy too, Junior? Oh yeah, after he just yelled at you. Or don't reveal it in front of him. Even he was taken aback by that. Or she's really mad. That's where they were talking about Augustus and Octavia. No, he's not full of himself. He's earned it. He's good. Wait, she knows Capo Regime. Wait, she knows everything. So she's not faking it. You know Capo Regime, and you're saying he's a saint, and you're saying, what? Wait, that line is the biggest line in the whole show. She knows exactly what she's doing then. Wait, she remembers Rocco Alatorre? How did she remember every exact thing? She's supposed to be senile and all this. Now you're gonna blame... No, but now the mother's confusing me. Shit, she's being all snarky and... You remember it in such vivid detail. Yeah, there is something going on with her, actually. She just pretends. Maybe she's the real boss somehow in something. But realistically... But I thought Capo was short for Capo Regime, so he's more than Capo Regime. He's the boss of the Capo Regimes. Right, Tony's a Capo Regime, so she said that wrong, maybe. That's the proof she's senile. But she knows that what they're in. See, I didn't know that till now. They're worried about, the kids. The kids know. I didn't know whether the mother knew, even though she had to know because she was married to the guy. But we didn't really know that till now. Oh my god, dude, a fucking witch hunt over here. Oh, these aren't like normal things that everybody does? That's like a normal fucking thing to do. Well, I'm on Tony's side here. Just simply being restless, being bored. This is a good comic line. Yeah, you mischaracterize idiosyncrasies. Exactly, he's right. This is a +1 actually moment for Tony, possibly. So Tony's down to -2 for taking the right stand on a medical position and seeing through the bullshit. Oh, here we go, Tony, you're down to -2. Fuck me. So yeah, that's a good +1 thing. My thing fell off again, my phone. But no, that's a good thing with respect to Tony's kind of sees through the bullshit of all that. You know, people fidget all the time. People are restless. People, like, I don't want to wait my turn either. Just because you do means you're, like, well-trained and well-indoctrinated into society. But no, that mother scene was interesting. We're effectively paused now just because, whatever. But the mother thing was interesting because she said the word capo regime, which maybe I think is, you could say capo regime means it's the boss of the capos. So maybe you're just a capo and then the capo... No, but I remember in The Godfather 2, they even say it. Under capo regime, Peter Clemenza, right? So Clemenza and Tessio were capo regimes, and then the big boss was Vito Corleone. So capo regime Peter Clemenza means that Tony is a capo regime, but that means that she was wrong in saying that Junior is a capo regime. He's actually the boss. And they even acknowledged that in the previous episode where they said, you know, he's the boss or whatever. They were just talking, you know, they were talking about whatever, like, you're the boss, and I was ragging on him a little bit, like, oh, he's bragging too much, or she knows, and he's being too open about it. So even she's a little bit annoyed by how smug he's being, but he didn't do anything really negative there. She almost gets a +1. The mom gets a +1 for, like, playing everybody and acting dumber, and she kind of had me fooled too. Two old people acts that kind of worked on me in this show, like, what do you call it? How she's doing the psychiatry thing, and then he's going to use it against Tony, and she just knows more than she's letting on. So we're going to start again, assuming it doesn't fall again, with like -1352, I think, or is it 352? One or the other, I don't know. 1, 2, 3, start. I can't tell whether it's 13 or 3 left, but in either case, it's not very much, so it hardly matters. But again, another episode without, like, a strong plot to it. You have the backstory. They're using this therapy thing too much, though. I'll just criticize that openly. They had a little argument at the dinner table. So the main character point stats are the mother gets a +1, Tony gets a +1, so he's down to -2, I think. Because he had gone to 4 for being a clown, then he went back to 3 for giving Junior advice. So now he's to a -2 for dealing with that psychiatry the right way. -2. Junior stayed the same. What was that conversation? What good did that do? It's going to stay like that. It's not fair. And that's it? What do you mean? What kind of conversation was that? That's really what this could be billed as. This is the Clemenza, not that he's exactly like Clemenza, but this is the Clemenza story, right? Where he kind of looks like him a little bit, and he's also a capo. Junior kind of maybe reminds me of Tessio a little bit, but like he's actually the big boss. So I don't understand. Either there's a contradiction or a mistake, or you could say it's her being senile. There's so many things that capo regime mind tells me. She's saying something that's true, that acknowledges she knows about the business, but she also said it wrong. Like, I don't know. Or maybe she means it in the long-term sense. No, but contextually it would make more sense since he became the boss. He's been a capo probably for a long time, right? And he's been waiting for this moment to become the boss. A nice little tender moment here, even though he was being a bit of a dick in the previous scene. Right? Tell me it's not fair. Okay, it must have been 3 minutes left then. 3:52. Well, that was kind of like a C-ish episode. Or no, yeah, it's still like a C, but it's good because the flashbacks were the salvation. But nothing else really happened there much. You saw the little thing with Chris fucking around, but there wasn't really a whole lot to that. And so the point being with Junior is they had a little fight at the dinner table, whatever. Don't talk about that stuff in front of my son. Who do you think you're yelling at, kind of thing. The way Junior deals with things is kind of understated. Like, he is the boss. He maybe has a bit of a big ego, but he's very fair. Like, he's not just, oh, I'm going to kill Tony because he did. Like, he's not like the Joe Pesci effect or something like that. Like, oh, I'm going to kill him because he said that to me, or he's still being fair-minded. Even he was shocked when the mother said, oh, where is he going to end up in a psychiatric hospital? And he was shocked by that. So we didn't get the chance. Normally the mother lets everything slip right to Junior in kind of one direction. The one thing I was disappointed in the mother that she didn't tell Tony was in the first episode when Junior said, oh, maybe I got to take a bigger piece. Maybe something should be done about Tony. Something like that, right? She didn't convey that to Tony, so that was kind of a missed opportunity that could have helped him or made him realize what Junior is feeling, which he still deals with it the right way and gives Junior the boss title. But then the next point is the simple fact that in this episode, she didn't get the chance to let the psychiatry thing slip to Junior, but then Junior can use it against Tony, or he'll view him differently once he goes there. It is always a stigma, right? You hear somebody's going to therapy and people will look at you differently, even though it's a normal thing that people can go to and it's fine, but the way that people overdo it, and again, these modern, like, placebo excuse things, like, if you do normal human behaviors and idiosyncrasies that everybody does, suddenly we'll give you a label, we'll give you ADHD, ADD, autistic, all these things, like, none of that matters, none of that, like, even if you are, so what? But people use it as, like, an excuse for something, because they can't take personal responsibility or anything for their own behaviors or anything like that, so that I strongly disagree with. So Tony was right on point there. And again, regardless whether you agree with what he's doing, the fact that he took such a strong stand and understood what it's really about and just thought, okay, it's about personal choice, it's about being a good parent, it's about just actually taking responsibility instead of always blaming something else. See, throughout human history, there's always been that tendency. Like, you want to blame the comic books. That's what's corrupting our kids these days. You want to blame the rock music. You want to blame the video games. It's violent video games. It's Grand Theft Auto. Or you want to blame it's movies. Oh, it's South Park. Oh, it's cartoons. It's shows. It's TV. It's music. It's computers. It's phones. It's everything. Like, no, it's you. It's you. Yes, those things exist and they can be an influence, but you are the defining factor. Obviously, kids are more influential and impressionable, but the idea is that, can you use the word influential like that? Kids are more influential. No, I don't think that's correct. Because influential would be like, I'm influencing other people. They're more impressionable would be the right way to say it. But the point is that, kids might be more impressionable, so that's why ratings exist, and don't let your kid watch The Godfather. Don't let, the number of fucking references they make to mafia movies and stuff is kind of stupid, though. Like, I get it, but where the guy's trying to do that voice line, I forgot what it was that he said, but he kept quoting something from The Godfather somewhere, and then obviously I'm making all these comparisons, but that's because I used to be a movie critic and I'm such a big fan of movies and I've seen so many of them, so this is literally the Clemenza story. That could be my title for this episode, right? Season 1, Episode 7, the Clemenza story. You're getting his background and seeing it from the perspective of a capo. I like how Tony's not the boss just from the beginning, though. Obviously, that's what it's going to turn into eventually, but it feels much more organic this way, right? Like, the fact that he gave the title to Junior is the sort of thing I would almost wish for and say in most shows, oh, he should have done that, that would have been better, and then organically, he can eventually get the title later. But the fact that they actually did that was a really good decision, right? The one big missed opportunity so far was the simple fact that in episode 5 with the Chris thing, that would have been a great moment for Chris and just the story and the game theory and everything like that. But the other point, so let's recap the character points. I'll try to stay more on top of this. Chris is still at a 0, just an even keel thing. He does something good, then he does something bad to cancel it out. Tony's kind of like that too, but Tony's at a -2, right, thankfully, because he was at -3, and then now he's at a -2 because of how he handled this whole psychiatry issue. Then I guess the therapist I haven't really been doing, but she would be at least like +1 because she's pretty smart, but -1,000,000 because why are you not changing from Tony as a client? That seems really weird, right? You would just say, fuck this, he fixed my car. But she kind of likes it, that's the thing. Maybe she doesn't even like him, but she likes the perks of it, which I think I picked up on, like at the dinner table thing where she cuts in line with her date or whatever at the time. I'll get you a table kind of thing. Or maybe she's older and she's looking for whatever. But she wasn't that freaked out by a mob boss saying, I love you. Like, what? If I don't go along with that, then you'll have me whacked or something? And he's being way too open, though. Although I've already given him adequate minus points for the therapy situation. But in so many different ways. The fact that you're going to therapy, the fact that you are going that often, the fact that you... some of this is taking place over a short period of time. Like, how many times are you going in the course of, like, one day? Right? Like, how many days of time passed in this episode? But he goes to her, like, 3 times or something. It's just being used as a story plot contrivance thing, but, like, whatever. It's like... you know, the fact that he goes so often, the fact that he obviously is able to tell her the real information instead of using innuendo and analogy, like, that's the whole point. The fact that she already warned you at the beginning, if you say anything incriminating, I'm obligated to report it, right? She says that in the first episode, so she was ahead of the game with that, but he just doesn't get it. He just doesn't get the point. Yeah, Junior is sitting at a lofty +3, and Tony is at a -2, and then basically Chris is at a neutral, and most of the other characters I don't really care too much about. The mother actually interestingly gets a +1, just because of whatever with the capo regime. I'm still confused by that moment. That was the stunning moment of the thing. I don't think that's actually a correct line, though, because since he's become capo regime, unless she said, like, since he's been promoted from it, I think it's just a mistake. Or, because I'm sure that is a line. I have, like, good memory when it comes to stuff like this. Under capo regime, Peter Clemenza. But capo regime would mean that he's working for Vito Corleone or Michael Corleone or whatever, right? So capo regime would not mean the big boss like Vito or Michael themselves. Ergo, Uncle Junior here, who's not a capo regime, capo is just short for capo regime. That's all it means, I'm pretty sure. So Tony is a capo regime. Junior used to be a capo regime, I guess. Some of these other guys, right, that we see are. And I guess that might be part of what being a made man is, but that might even still be below a capo. You can be a made man, but then a capo is even above that, or only certain made men become... I don't know exactly how the structure works, but that scene at the end of episode 6 was pretty awesome, though. In fact, the end of both of these episodes were pretty good, despite the fact that the actual episodes themselves weren't that great. Or like even episode 3. What happened at the end of episode 3? I can't remember. But no, we had that song that's been in so many Scarface montages. So now I'm curious to find out, is that just some other song that they happen to be using in there, or is it actually from The Sopranos? Because if it's from The Sopranos, that's a badass tune to have associated with you. I had no idea. It's only fitting that it would be used in another gangster thing. It's not from Scarface, or in Scarface. It's obviously just, you know, used in a lot of those video montages, like when he's saying some badass quote or like some kind of edit. But no, in my character versus system, out of those big 4, we know that Tony Soprano is like near the bottom of the list, maybe only above Henry Hill. And what else? It was not a particularly great episode. Junior's role here is at least a little more understated. He's at dinner with them. He's, you know, they're having that nice dinner, and then that must be in the nursing home, right? Because she maybe just stays there all the time. I just didn't fully catch what was happening, but then they were having a bit of an argument, but he lets it go, and then the mother was about to let slip something. So she's kind of more conniving than I gave her credit for. I was sort of refusing to believe that she really knows what she's doing. And even as I try to catch that, then there's a subliminal hint that she is crazy too. That the way she said capo regime, I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. or maybe the power structure in Godfather is just so much more elevated. He might be a capo regime, meaning he's a big boss, but there's an even bigger boss above that. But I doubt it's that nuanced. Like, so Peter Clemenza is the boss, but then the Don is such a big boss that he's considered the boss amongst even a capo regime. So Junior is still the big boss, but that means capo regime, which means even above that, there's somebody else bigger that we don't know about or haven't heard about. It's not like, oh, that was Uncle Jackie, because Uncle Jackie would have been the boss that the Junior currently is, right?